All right, welcome back to the Ottawa studios of Inside My Canoe Head. I am your host, Dr. D. Today, let's go back to basics. We're going to talk about the purpose of preparedness. So sit back, grab yourself your favorite beverage. Let's get at her. All right, welcome back. And as we do every episode, I want to thank everybody for continuing to contribute to the online discussion, the ongoing debate back and forth. For those of you that comment on our Substack, we greatly appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, we have a Substack under my name, Jeff Donaldson. There is a Substack. We also have a YouTube channel that, yes, this week we'll begin uploading our long-form video series. And what the goal always has been and will continue to be is that we're going to provide you free preparedness information and education, and it's going to come in three formats. So you can consume our content through the audio contest or audio format as you're doing right now on this awesome, incredible podcast. You can read the written word in our Substack, or you can hop over to our YouTube channel and watch it at Preparedness Labs. The goal here is to make sure that you can consume free educational content that is non-apocalyptic and evidence-based in the medium and format that you desire. Everything will be available to you free of charge, and always will be. There is some stuff behind paywalls, but everything that you get here is absolutely free and will continue to do so. So today, we want to talk about what is preparedness. And it seems like a bit ironic on a podcast that has over 300 episodes, has been around 4.5 years, downloaded in 63 nations, and closely approaching 25,000 downloads in total. And we're going to talk about what's the purpose of our main idea. Sometimes you have to return to first principles. In some industries, you hear about first principle review. That goes back to the basics. First principles are those which we all accept in the discipline to be true. And when we go back and reflect upon those, sometimes it's a valuable exercise because we can often go down tangents, rabbit holes. We can go down these crazy ideologically driven or culturally driven tangents that take us way off into the ether, discussing about something totally foreign to the original concept, but we got drawn there by a series of circumstances. So when we return back here, I like to frame preparedness as your blanket of insulation that wraps your life. And what it does is it protects you against exogenous shock and allows you to pursue your dreams. So the whole back in that statement we're going to unpack today. First is, what is your dreams? Like, really? What do you swing your legs out of bed in the morning? Now, I know a lot of people will just mutter that they're just trying to get through the day, right? They're just trying to get back to their bed at the end of the night successfully, maybe earning a little bit of money, not getting in too much trouble, and not having something significantly horrible go wrong to them, right? The reality is, everybody out there, and studies have shown, the vast majority of people, when I say the vast majority of people, I'm talking in excess of 70% of the population has a goal or a dream that they would like to pursue. Many of them are hesitant. Many of those goals are buried. Many of them, they look at the world around them and they say, you know what? There are too many things. It's too hard. It's too difficult. Right now is not a good time for me to pursue this goal. Not as a good time for me to chase my dreams, or I don't know how I could possibly become this, whatever it is that they're after. They have the dream. They may not be actively doing anything about it, but they have and possess that dream. They just look at the world around them. They see too many barriers and obstacles to doing it right now, too many other pressures, too many other activities, too many other stressors, tons of anxiety, and just a myriad of rationale why they're not going to go after their dreams, but they're there. And if the presence of the dream is true, then preparedness is what puts a blanket of insulation around that and says, okay there, bud. Enough of your own self-pity party. Enough of you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, oh, I wish I could, but I can't because of this following list of 14 things that I believe are preventing or holding me back from doing what I want to do. The first part about adopting preparedness is not buying kit. The first part of preparedness is, what is it that you're trying to protect? What is it that you think is at risk, concerns you because it's at risk, And you would like that concern to go away. A lot of people right now live fairly stressed and fairly anxious lives. And they're stressed because of something. Because you got to remember, anxiety is worry about something that has not occurred and likely probably won't. So what if that event did occur, but it no longer had the ability to cause you any harm? That's what the idea of preparedness does. You're not trying to change the world. You're not trying to change the universe. You control very, very little of what goes on. In reality, the ancient Stoics had it right in their general philosophy is you only control what you say and what you do. Absolutely everything else that happens around you is out of your control, which means if you want to pursue something, you need to protect it at length. And you say, well, I don't really have a goal. I'm just getting through life. Well, guess what? You're already actively doing preparedness. If you have car insurance, that's preparedness. If you have $1,000 in the Dave Ramsey baby step number 1 set aside, you're doing preparedness. If you have disability insurance, you're doing preparedness. If you're taking some ongoing free education on YouTube and learning a new skill while you're still employed, you're doing preparedness. If you decided to get an extra roll of toilet paper just in case you don't run out, you're doing preparedness, right? Preparedness is not this exogenous, crazy, wild idea of about doomsday and protecting against the aliens landing or some massive political or economic shock that is going to bring society to its knees. It's what you do in your daily basis to protect. Now, you're probably doing the minimum acceptable legal requirement, right? So when you buy car insurance, you're probably pursuing the cheapest one you can get that gives you the minimal level that the law says you have to have coverage. The same when you buy fire insurance, right? So you're doing something preparedness, but you're doing it because somebody ordered you to do it and told you you can't drive unless you go over here and you do this thing at this level and you've bought the minimal accepted. You're at least executing some form of preparedness. So when you think if you are already doing it, why not take 10 minutes and figure out what your dream is? Right? If you want a dream, if you have an outcome, and you do have one, you can figure out what it is. How do I get there? That's always the tough question when we talk about goals and dreams is what is it that I need to do to make it happen, right? There's always that gap between, okay, I want to be this. And I'll give my story because I think it resonates. When I retired from the Army after 28 years, I did not know what I wanted to do, but I had 3 outcomes. There are 3 things that I wanted to do. And one of them was I wanted to become a published author. The second one was I wanted to complete the PhD that I had started. PhD, it eventually took me 5.5 years, but I was only 2 years into it. I had 2 years into a 5-year PhD. I wanted to finish it. I wanted to be a published author. I'd never written a book in my life, and I hadn't even started, and I didn't even know what the book was about. I just wanted to be a published author, and then I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start a private Canadian corporation trying to sell and pursue goals of being an entrepreneur. I had 3 goals, right? I didn't know how I would do them. I just knew I wanted to pursue them, and I knew I was retiring from my job and taking a significant income cut. So I had to sit down and develop a strategy, right? A strategy is what you want to achieve. A plan is how you're going to achieve it. So I needed a plan to execute my vision of being an author. Let's just put it that way. I wanted to write a book and have it up on Amazon for sale. I have 2 up there now, but I wanted to have one. So how do you write a book, right? Well, you have to have an idea, and you start to look at it. There actually is a roadmap. And now there's tons of books, there's master classes, there's YouTube videos. There's every resource out there I wanted, from expensive to free, to show me the road to become a published author. So I did. I took down a bunch of things. I bought a book. It was called A Weekend Novelist, I think it was called. I got some help. I actually hired and paid a small fee to an incredible editor, a wonderful individual who was brilliant help in obstacle. And it was harder than I thought, but I achieved it. I wrote my book. It cost me nothing other than the editing fee that I paid, which was worth every penny. And it's up for Amazon for sale now. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so about 9 months after I retired, I finally sat down and said, okay, how do I do this? An entrepreneur requires a corporation. You can do a sole proprietorship, but if you want to protect what you might pursue against, getting sued and hurt your life, you need to start a corporation. I had no idea how to do that. I had no idea how to start a corporation, not a clue. So I went out again. This one was 100% free. I found YouTube videos that took me through the step-by-step process of starting a corporation. And I did it. And I started the corporation. And then over a period of 3.5 years after retirement, through a whole bunch of trials, tribulation, etc., I defended my dissertation and completed my PhD. So where my dreams got realized is not because I'm anybody special, not because I had money, not because I did something amazing, and not because I'm a podcaster. It simply meant that I made the leap from clearly being able to express what it is I wanted to do to developing a plan to get from where I was to what the finish line looked like. And for each of the 3 retirement goals I had, I figured out that plan. One was done in less than a year, one was done in 2.5 years, and one was done in 3.5 years. But they're all done now, and I have a different set of goals now, and I'm working towards. And what I'm saying is when you have a goal that you want to pursue, you have to be able to lay out that roadmap, what it is that I have to do. And when you lay out that roadmap, it's not about knowing the answer to it. Like, I have to learn how to write was the first part. I didn't at the time know where was I going to go to learn how to write like an author, but I knew I had to learn how to write. And then I knew I had to have a subject. And then I knew I had to have a writing plan. And then I knew I had to have some type of editorial control. And then I knew I had to publish, right? I didn't know how I was going to do each one of those steps, but because of the free stuff that's available on YouTube, I was able to figure out those steps. So I laid each one out, and then I just followed the roadmap. When the book was the first draft of the book was done, I decided I got to the point where I needed an editor. I stumbled across an incredible individual who I had on the podcast before, offered her to be my editor. She accepted, and she did a fabulous, incredible job, and totally changed it night and day to what it is now. And it's a successful book. It's not a New York Times bestseller, but we sold a few copies, and it's doing well. So when you set up that goal, the reason now is when you see that roadmap, I've got to get from where I am to where I want to go. I've got a roadmap and a series of activities in there. Guess what I now have to do? Welcome to the world of preparedness. I need to protect that roadmap that I've created. I've got a process laid out in front of me. It may be 2 steps or it may be 10 steps to get from where I am now to where I want to go. Now I look at this nice roadmap that I wrote, and I've got to realize there are things that can happen that are beyond my control that can influence or prevent or damage or cause harm to this process that I've set out. What are they? And then how can I mitigate them? And then you start thinking about preparedness. I might lose my job. What does that look like? I might get into a car accident. You start thinking of the world of risk, etc. There are many different methodologies, and the book that I wrote is actually a summation of the methodologies that we've put out here at Inside My Canoe Head and in our parent company, Preparedness Labs Incorporated. We've got that figured out, but you put a wrapping, a blanket of insulation. For example, I need to protect against loss of income. Right? It's not the government's job and it's not my family's job to pay my bills when I can't pay them. So how do I protect against loss of income? Well, many different ways to do that, but that gets you choosing a strategy to protect against loss of income. Great. Fantastic. Health-wise, am I in good health? Do I need to get into better health? Because if I'm sick, I can't write my book. So now I have to be healthy. How am I going to write my book? Do I need a backup computer? Probably not. And you see a lot of times when you think about things, when you're talking about preparedness, I don't need it. Well, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that answer, right? So you start to see, hey, listen, I got to take care of my family. I got to take care of me. I got to take care of the world around me so that I'm allowed the space and time to pursue my goals. And then that's where you see preparedness tying in to your goal setting. And as you're pursuing your goals, you're living your best life. You're living your dream, right? Maybe it is you want, you're 54 years old and you want to get into shape. You're tired of being out of shape, out of breath. Great. You come up with a plan. It's probably going to take a year or two, right? So what do I need to protect against in that year or two? Well, if I'm going to get a personal trainer, I need income. I need, you start to look at the different pieces of preparedness that matter. And when you think of you and you think of that plan, now if we take a pause and we extrapolate it up to your household, what is your household's goal, right? You love your spouse, you love your kids, however you define family in the modern sense, you have a loving family. You want to protect that family. You don't want that family to come to harm. So what is it that you need to do to mitigate against those things that you don't control, so that not only does your family have the ability to pursue its goals, but it is protected from harm to the greatest extent possible? You can't prevent loss from happening. You can't prevent harm from happening. You can't prevent disruption from happening. All you can do is mitigate it to the greatest extent possible, hopefully down to a nominal level where it's nothing but a bothersome nuisance every once in a while. But think of your household. You're pursuing your personal dreams, and that's great. Now let's bring it up to your household. What is it that you need to do to protect your household so that you and your family can carry on with what you want? Very important, right? Obviously. What's more important than family? Nothing. You have to have employment. Does it matter if you're happy or does it matter if you're sad? Sure it does. But you need to have employment, and then you need to have protection. And we've always said one of the biggest keys is in preparedness is, what's your plan when you get fired tomorrow, right? You see the talk of tariffs and everything in the news. You see the change in the U.S. presidency coming in. Disruption is coming back to the economic models. Whether you think that's good or bad, I could care less. Disruption is coming back, right? If you're earning employment in a business and you don't own the business, you are in danger of being affected by a disruption. What is your strategy for when you get hauled in Monday morning or you get a text saying, don't bother coming in, we're shutting down the plant? What's your plan? Because that's your responsibility to have that figured out, because that's a preparedness idea that you come up with to protect your family from harm. You don't want your family to be hungry. You don't want your family to lose their house. You don't want your family to be homeless. So you take the necessary precautions through, number one, having a pivot plan. And what a pivot plan does for you is it's a very simple strategy that says, if I get fired tomorrow, what am I going to do to earn an income? Full stop. What is it that you're going to do? Now, it could be pivot to a different industry. It could be pivot to a different employment. It could be temporarily relocate, which a lot of people have done in economic strife. Like, for example, you're an electrician. You work in a plant. The plant closes. You're an electrician. You don't want to change trades. There's no jobs here. Okay, so maybe for the next 6 to 8 months, you need to take a job in another town, in another city, in another part of the country to earn an income to support your family. So what does that world look like? You don't want to be searching for that job after you get fired. You want a general understanding of where you're going to earn your income on Monday when you get fired on Friday. You also might say, hey, listen, there's going to be a little disruptive time in there. I think it's logical for me to have 2 months of basic expenses. So I've got a 60-day window there where I know I can pay my car note. I know I can pay my rent or mortgage. I know I can feed my family. In that 60 days, I'm definitely going to be able to pivot or find some employment somewhere in North America to be able to earn an income to get the money back to keep my family going, right? So I need that period of time. That's a preparedness strategy, right? You simply said, I know what the threat is. I've got a threat of losing my income. Welcome to disruption in the 2020s. And now I've got a plan of action to deal with it, right? Your goal at a personal level is to be the head of your family or to be responsible for your family. The goal of your family you want to protect is to keep that family going on. And as we keep moving the unit of measure up, now we talk about your community. Now we talk about your neighborhood. Now we talk about your city. Now we talk about your state or province. Now we talk about your nation. The process is the same. The people within you as an individual, and then as we go up the collective ladder, everybody together has a combined collective vision on where you want to see society go, on where you want to see your community go, your neighborhood, your church, your faith group, your service organization, whatever it may be. And what you constantly should be looking at is, what are the exogenous threats to us pursuing the mission and goal that we have before us? What does that look like? What are those threats? And then once you determine that a threat exists, what can we do to mitigate against it? You can't prevent it, right? You can't prevent yourself from being fired unless you start your own company. And then you may have to fire yourself anyhow when there's no income. The point being is, prevention is the wrong word to use in discussion about preparedness. All you can do is mitigate against harm so that when an event occurs, because remember, the exogenous shocks are beyond your control. When an economic disruption happens, when your town gets hit with massive layoffs and you're in a one industry town, imagine you were the person who owned the local lunch cafe, and all of these people that worked at the lunch hour are going to and from the local plant, and they serviced you great. You own this cafe, you're the business owner, you work for yourself, the plant shuts down and nobody's coming in to replace it. That is something you have to be ready for as a business owner in a one industry town. You can see how the iterations of this are almost endless. It's about your frame, your life, the goals that you're pursuing, and the situation you're in. Preparedness is the totality of cognitive and physical actions that you take to mitigate against harm that is beyond your control. You can't control the world. Everybody gets to vote in the election. I have a say, I just don't get the final say. So whether your person did or did not win the U.S. election, it really matters not. You are now stepping into the next iteration of the U.S. presidency. The nation has been around a couple 100 years. It'll be perfectly fine. It'll come out the other end of whatever happens. The point being is that there will be disruptions, and are you ready for them? Now, those disruptions, as we said in a previous podcast, exist in 5 frames, right? So you can have political disruptions, you can have economic disruptions, you can have natural disruptions, you can have cultural or ideological disruptions, and then you can have familial disruptions. So those are the kind of 5 frames that we recommend to people when you think about what are the threats to what it is I'm trying to pursue, when you think of it through that kind of logic model, for lack of a better term. The point we're making today is very, very simple. Preparedness is something you're already doing. Preparedness has a very real intent about protecting what you're doing. The difference between you and the uber successful people that you see online or on Instagram or on any other social media platform, the difference between you and them is that they laid out a plan to get where they want to be, right? It's like I've said before, and I'll say this again. Everybody listening can be a millionaire. The problem is that the 99 percentile of the people listening don't want to do the work required, right? It's that old adage of everybody is jealous of what you have, but nobody is jealous of how you got there, right? Everybody loves the view from the top, but nobody wants to do the climb. The point being is that successful people, whether they're Usain Bolt as a runner, whether they're a politician who was successfully elected, an entrepreneur that crossed their first $1 million year, or the teacher who got her dream job, it doesn't matter what your dream is. Successful people in the world have simply laid out a roadmap to get there. Whatever your dream may be, lay out a roadmap. Successful people have done that. But on top of that, what successful people has done is then wrapped a blanket of insulation around that. They protect it against all the exogenous shocks that could influence, inhibit, or somehow curtail their pursuit of their goal. They had a preparedness strategy, and a lot of them probably likely did not call it their preparedness strategy, but that's in fact what they did. They set it out. They set themselves on a mission. They had a plan to get there. They developed the resources necessary to get there. And I've always said preparedness is free. And I've got lots of podcast information and written information on that. But the whole strategy of it is the role of preparedness is to allow you, to facilitate you to reach your dreams and reach your goals. And it's no more complicated than that. Some people believe they're at threats of a total societal collapse, and they believe doomsday is around the corner. And so those people, because their goal is to survive the impending doomsday that they see coming, they thus invest in their bunkers and their off-grid defendable properties and their 5 years of food, water storage and their nuclear bunker. Like, fine. But and we make fun of them, and rightly so. Okay, we'll set that aside. But they're successful, are they not? Because they set out a goal, they looked at the threats to reaching that goal, and then they put in the plan in action, and they're executing it. Now, they may be a bit of a wingnut, but they're actually being successful in reaching their goal. It's probably not your goal, and it's definitely not mine. But the clear idea is, we know from statistics that you have a goal. You may be an outlier, and fair enough, but I'm going to argue that the vast majority of human beings listening to this podcast have a goal that they have not achieved. And they can probably sit down in a short notice, give an absolute laundry list of things that they believe are barriers and obstacles to them becoming successful in achieving their goal. And I'm not going to hash those people out or put them down at all, because they honestly believe that those are barriers and obstacles. My argument is the value of preparedness is, and what successful people have figured out is, first you got to roadmap it, and you can do that now. If your goal is to be a millionaire, you can roadmap the step to be a millionaire, and you can be a millionaire in 5 to 7 years. It's not that difficult. It's just hard. See the difference between the two? It's not that difficult. It's just hard. It is incredible amounts of work. 12, 16-hour days, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. No activities, no hobbies, no friends, no nothing like that. But yes, in 5 to 7 years, you'll be a millionaire if that's your goal. And it's not wrong. It's not my goal, but it is somebody else's goal. And you can do it. And the successful people have not only laid out that roadmap, they've then wrapped that roadmap in a blanket of preparedness. We're not going to beat this anymore. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this wonderful episode, recorded and published on the 26th of November, 2024, my wonderful 54th birthday. So thanks for joining me for this podcast. Please drop a line in any note, thoughts that you have about Inside My Canoe Head, what you would like to see. Drop over to our website, www.insidemycanoehead.ca. Everything you need to know is there. My email is there. People reach out to me all the time. I answer it. Nobody else at the team at Inside My Canoe Head or the parent company, Preparedness Labs Incorporated. Nobody else gets to deal with those emails but me. Everything is there that you need. If you want to help us out, do one favor. Share this with a friend. Tell them there's some interesting, maybe a bit of a nutcase individual out there who's talking about preparedness in a non-apocalyptic, evidence-based, rational way. That's what we do here. That's our service to you. It'll be free. And remember, we are offering this on video and written format if you prefer those as well. So take care, stay safe, and have yourself an incredible week.